Welcome to the No Streetlights podcast. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Tim. We'll be engaging in stimulating conversations every week.
We want to encourage societal growth towards kindness through understanding.
These conversations and the associated language can be triggering.
Listen at your own discretion.
But please reach out if we need to be doing something better.
So, let's take a breath, relax, and be welcome. Hey, Mike, welcome back to the podcast. We've recorded with you twice, and we've talked to you 5 times. Hopefully this recording sticks. If not, we'll see you again next week.
Yeah, it'll be fun. This is a weekly thing, and we'll probably, it'll take like a couple, I don't know, say 6 months, and we'll have 30 minutes of audio we can use. It'll be okay.
Yeah, we'll just
We'll
eventually be able to chop enough of it together to put it out.
As long as we learn something every week, I think Mike's going to be willing to come back to us. And I'm willing to keep bashing my head against the wall. Screw it. Let's have one learning session every week.
Hell yeah. Mike, you're a fellow podcaster just like us. Can you tell us a little bit about your podcast?
It's called Recovery is Effing Awesome. We talk about how to live comfortably in sobriety. I'm a former drug addict and I am a recovering drug addict and alcoholic. My day of grace is May the 7th, 2010. We also talk about suicide prevention because I know a little bit about getting to that point in my life. We also talk about mental health issues. As men, especially my generation, I'm almost 52. It's almost still kind of taboo here in 2023 for guys to actually say honestly how they feel, which is a shame.
Right.
Because if we cannot communicate how we feel and we bottle that stuff up inside, one day, maybe just something innocuous happens and we snap and we either hurt somebody else or more often than not, we actually hurt ourselves.
And really, best case scenario with that is you bottle it up until it becomes a tumor, and then a doctor cuts it out, which is also quite unpleasant. Hopefully you never hurt anyone, but best case scenario is a tumor. So we're learning maybe don't do that.
Yeah, that's not a good thing.
No. If that's your best case, no.
It's important that we talk about how we're feeling and what's really going on and being honest with other people. And like for me, my trust circle is still very, very small. Because I think deep down, I'm still just a scared little boy that if someone really knew the real me and knew what was going on and how vulnerable I am, they're not going to like me or their opinion of me will change. And it's that whole low self-esteem and really worrying about what other people think, even though it's kind of a subconscious thing. Because outwardly, I really don't give a fuck if you like me or not. And there's people who do like me. And there's people who don't like me. And either way, that's cool with me because I like me. And that at the end of the day, that's really all that matters.
I remember during one of our many conversations that we've had now, you mentioned that was kind of how you even started drinking to begin with, was because when you were drinking, it's like people noticed you. And other than that, you felt as if you were invisible. So it became a norm for you.
Because I was nothing special and I'm still not, but I was literally just the epitome of the gray man, right? Like I walked into a room and nobody noticed and nobody cared. But when I was drinking, I could be anybody that I thought that you needed me to be just to be seen. You didn't have to like me. You really didn't have to do anything for me. But as long as you noticed me and acknowledged my existence, I was okay with that. And what that led to was me living in this fantasy world. I completely checked out of reality. But the fantasy world is if I was hanging out with cowboys, I'd dress, talk, and act like a cowboy. If I was hanging out with Harley guys, I'd dress, talk, and act like them. If I was hanging out with the preppies, I was a chameleon. I would dress, act, and talk how I thought whatever situation required that just so I would be recognized.
So it was your camouflage.
Yeah, it's a very tiring way to live.
Yeah. You don't know who you are. I mean,
Yeah. Well, and it took me probably about 3 or 4 years in sobriety to actually start realizing who and what I am, what I really like, what certain types of food that I like, or music, or things like that. And it was really weird. It was cool because it was kind of eye opening and it was freeing because, again, my whole entire life it was bullshit, right? I was living through what I thought everybody else needed me to be or wanted me to be just to be accepted. And then once I sobered up and started actually working on what really is inside of me and getting all that baggage and all that garbage out that, weighted me down for so long, I started to understand that just being me is good enough. And if people want to latch onto that and hang out and be my friend, man, that's awesome. And if they don't, I really don't have time for them. And so I have a lot of respect for people who are unapologetically them. They don't give a shit what anybody else thinks, the way that they dress, their religion, their sexual orientation, any of that stuff. If they're comfortable in their own skin, I have mad respect for that.
It sounds like sobriety enabled you to get back to yourself. Like it was the tool that you used to come back to center. So do you want to talk about what led to your sobriety? Do you want to give your lead?
Yeah, I will. Yeah, let's go there. We'll just skip to it. I won't even give you the trailer. So my life had gotten to where I like to joke and say I was a functioning alcoholic and drug addict because I would do all that stuff, but I still had a job. I still had a wife. I still had a house. I still had kids, even though I was very distant from them. Even though I was here, I really wasn't here. I really wasn't a part of their lives. And it's not something I'm proud of. It's not something to make light of, but I was a selfish prick. It was all about me. It's like when I get off work, how much beer can I get? How many drugs can I do? Because whatever made me happy on the inside to fill that hole that was empty, that's what I would do. And what it led me to was on May 6th of 2010, I kind of had a feeling my wife was going to take the kids and leave. Or worse yet, she was going to make me leave, and I literally had nowhere to go. And that's a very depressing place to be. Scared shitless is exactly what I was. And so the ultimate selfish decision was made. So on May 6th of 2010, I was sitting in my garage with a shotgun in my mouth, because where drugs and alcohol lead me is to a place where I have no hope. I can see no future. I could see no way out. And that was the only way out that I could have seen. And then my 3-year-old son opened the door and said, "Dad, what are you doing?" And the next day I was at AA meeting and been sober ever since. So I understand suicidal thoughts. I understand being in such a deep depression that you can't see your way out. I can understand the hopelessness and the loneliness that alcohol and drugs, that place that alcohol and drugs takes people. I understand that because I've been there. This isn't something that I made up in my head. This isn't something I saw on a TV or read in a book. I've lived this shit. I got the scars. 13 and a half years later, I'm still working on getting rid of some of that baggage that's still there. And it probably will be forever. It's a daily thing. We have this thing one day at a time. Every day I do a little bit more to be better than I was yesterday. Mm-hmm. And I do a lot of journaling. Journaling, there's a lot of guys who think journaling's for fucking pussies. But I tell you, it helps me. It may not help anybody else, but it helps me because once I get those thoughts out on paper, they lose their power. Because if they're still up here, they hold a lot of power. But once I get them out, and sometimes I actually have to call friends and talk to them about it. And once I speak it or once I write it down, it's not that big a deal. It doesn't hold the power that it did when I keep it inside.
Dad's got about 30 years. And while I was there just recently, I had the revelation that merely by understanding the problem in its totality, you have the solution. So in most 12-step programs, they say, don't focus on the problem or you'll keep living in it. Focus on the solution. So it seems like you really perceived the problem in its totality and were kind of thereby liberated. You said, okay, alcohol is what's leading me here. So in order for me not to be trapped by this, I need to let go of alcohol.
Yeah, and it wasn't easy. I mean, it's not like,
God,
oh, one
no.
day I just woke up and it was, no,
Yeah.
it the cravings were there, and the drunk dreams, and I still have drunk dreams. I literally wake up in a cold sweat, and then it takes me a couple minutes, and I'm like, it was a dream. I'm good. I didn't really do what I just thought I did.
Mm-hmm.
Sobriety's not easy. Getting sober is not easy. Staying sober is even harder, because I've been sober before, but I was doing it for my parents, get them off my back. And until I truly wanted to get sober myself and stay sober myself, this shit doesn't work. I love my wife and I love my kids to death, and I would take a bullet for them. But sobriety for me today is number one, because I know without sobriety, I don't have shit. My wife will leave. I won't have a house. I won't have a job. I won't have jack. And I understand that. So it's not fear necessarily that keeps me sober. It's the excitement that I wake up every morning, because there were days when I woke up and I was pissed off because I woke up. And I hope people can understand that. And it sounds really weird, but today I wake up and I'm excited. I kind of give a little wink and say thank you, because I have another shot at this, and I wake up full of gratitude, and I'm excited to see what the day's going to bring. Don't get me wrong. Life is still life. Shit happens, but it's like this. The situation doesn't change, but my perception and attitude toward the situation can change. If I stay positive, man, days are great. I kind of joke and say I don't have bad days, because if I don't put any mind altering chemicals in my body and I don't intentionally hurt anybody, for a guy like me, that's a great fucking day.
Hell yeah.
What else is going around outside? If I can look in the mirror and be okay with the guy looking back, it's a great day.
Yeah. One thing that we had talked about a lot was the concept of rock bottom, because I know a lot of people like to say that they've hit rock bottom. And a lot of the times, I can't tell if somebody actually has or not, right? But in the sense of what we were talking about, where alcohol brings you, that night in your garage with a shotgun, that's rock bottom. And I think experiencing something like that, knowing that there's almost no lower point you can get to at that point, that's a terrifying feeling.
I think everyone has a rock bottom, but people who have the opportunity to overcome dependencies like this have a much more severe rock bottom. For example, Mamaw took one sip of beer, was like, oh, that's awful, I hate it. That was her rock bottom with alcohol. She was like, cool, I'm never going to do alcohol again. But our rock bottom with alcohol looks very different, because we have maybe different stuff going on in our life as opposed to Mamaw. So Mike's rock bottom looks different than your rock bottom, Tim. Your rock bottom looks different from my rock bottom. That doesn't make your story less true. You realize that alcohol was poisoning you, and so you made a decision to stop doing alcohol. And every single day, you're grateful for the opportunity to have that fight. You get a chance to win that fight every single day.
100%. And it's not always rainbows and unicorns. I want to be clear on that. Yes, I attack everything with positivity, and I am as grateful as I know how to be. But for me, gratitude is more of an action word, right? How do I show that I'm grateful for my sobriety? Am I helping other people? Am I doing, what our book says? Am I reaching out to help, whether they have an issue with alcohol and drugs or not? Am I willing to help somebody else expecting nothing in return? Am I putting good in this world instead of just taking? There are many inspirations that I have. I sponsor a guy, and he's a doctor, a former doctor, lost his license, and now he's going back to get it. He has a test at the end of the month. He inspires me, because that was his livelihood, and it could have just completely destroyed him, but it didn't. It made him stronger. And I have a buddy named Jake, who I love more than life itself. I've watched him go through the loss of both of his parents. He's lost a job, and he's had some other really crippling things. but he inspires me because he's still sober. He's almost a year behind me. So he's been sober a little over 12 years. He is the most positive, inspirational person I have ever met. If you looked in the dictionary under gratitude for being sober, you would see this dude's picture. When I say, and I text a bunch of people every morning, it's like, hey, go, kick some ass, piss some gratitude, sprinkle some Jake dust on today. And that's what I mean. He is just, and it's infectious. Like I either talk to him or text him every day. And it's just, even if we're texting, I can just feel his positive energy. And that makes me want to be better. I think that we feed off each other. And that's the cool thing about it, is because now I have, instead of having, I feel nobody who understands me, who doesn't has any clue about what I've been through, to now have a community of people who, when I tell them what's going on in my head, they don't look at me like I'm fucking nuts. They don't look at me like I should be locked in a mental institution. They're like, you know what? Yeah, I get it. I've had that too. Or if they haven't, they can say, hey, I have not gone through that personally, but I know somebody who has. Let me get you in contact with them. And then we can share with them. And the other thing about why I'm so grateful is I now finally understand that all of the things that I've done in my life, good or bad, I regret nothing, because everything that I have done, even if it's really, really shitty, I can use that to help somebody else. And I could take everything that used to be a liability, turn it into an asset, and hopefully help one person. Because if I can help one person, my job's good. We were talking about this before, that one person we may help may go help somebody else that we know nothing about. And that person goes help somebody else. And then everything, it just grows exponentially. And that may come from just a single conversation on some innocuous Tuesday that you have with somebody that you may or may not know. And then that could lead to touching so many other people. There's people who are dealing with battles that we know nothing about. And they may tell you they're fine, and they're really not. But the wave or the handshake or the good morning or hello or just something just so meaningless that we think, right, may touch that person in such a way that they go and it pays itself forward. And that's one of the cool things about living today, is what we get to do is we get to spread a little bit of hope and a little bit of positivity in people's lives. Now, the level of that, we may never know. I don't know who or how many people listen to my podcast, but if I can help one person that inspires them to help somebody else, then it's all been worth it.
Seemingly you've helped more than one person, and even in our limited conversations, I know you've helped me tremendously. And I keep getting these ideas that we've heard and then conveyed just keep reinforcing each other. Devon said, all the decisions I've made led me to where I am, so I'm grateful for them. And if I meet somebody along where I am now, I know they're also headed the right way because of my trajectory. And then we've said, if we only help one person, that's enough. Every single person we've talked to who's passionate about what they're doing, when they wake up, they say, if I help one person, that's enough. All of the religious stuff that I've dissected and looked apart and meditated on and then found to be true, it's all just be compassionate. Just generate good karma. If you're being kind, dude, the universe is going to get better and better and better and better. So we can have this phone call every single week because you're reinforcing that this is the right thing to be doing. You're doing it. You've got recovery is effing awesome. I've thought of like 30 people who I want to link and network you guys together because of how important what you're doing is and how aligned your guys' goals are. It's just incredible how small the world is. Again, I'm sorry guys, you missed our conversation, but Mike also tried majoring in alcohol and women when he was in the Navy like I did in college, and that didn't work out. So we identify very strongly with each other. Tim, would you like to say something before I continue screaming?
No, I'm actually going to bring up a completely different thing. So you continue until you're done, please.
I am.
You are what? You're going to continue or you're done?
I just am.
He thinks, therefore he's Aaron. Mike, I think one thing that I'm kind of curious about, and I don't know if we've ever fully discussed it in our previous conversations, when you first started out on your path of sobriety, the date of May 7th, 2010, correct?
Yes, sir.
I'm kind of thinking to myself, if somebody's listening to this and they are kind of they're in a similar boat to you at the time. They're either just about to get started, or maybe it's been something that they've been thinking about how to get started. What's some advice that you can provide to somebody who's just getting started or about to get started on their path to sobriety?
Well, let's say they've never heard about AA before, Alcoholics Anonymous. They're in the phone book. For you millennials, it's actually a book that they used to have that has everybody's phone number in it.
Do they have a Twitter?
Yes, actually they do. Or you can just Google it and it could give you the national number, or it could give you a local club that's near you. But you have to want it. If you have a strong desire to not feel the way that you're feeling, there's help available, but you have to reach out because nobody's going to come knocking on your door.
Right.
You may have an intervention by people who give a shit, but it's attraction rather than promotion, right? And I got to say this, there's a lot of people who need this program, who need to get sober to help themselves and their families. There's not so many people who want it. For me, I knew I was an alcoholic and drug addict for years, and I just didn't give a shit because I didn't want to stop, because I felt good when I was all fucked up. And I didn't feel good because I didn't like me when I was sober. So when I first started getting sober, I was scared shitless because, again, I didn't know who I was, and alcohol and drugs were my crutch. Because if I have no crutch, then I got to stand on my own 2 feet, and I got to look the world in the face, and they're looking at me, and I don't like people looking at me because they're going to start asking questions. And then when I have to answer questions, it's usually going to be bullshit because I don't know how to tell the truth. I have such low self-esteem that if I told them something, that they're going to judge me. Whether they do or not, it's irrelevant, because in my head, they are. For someone who wants to get sober, don't let the fear of other people stop you from helping yourself. If you really want it bad enough, I can promise you it is worth it. At least give it an honest shot. Give it 90 days. In 3 months, if you haven't figured out that this is a better lifestyle for you, we will gladly refund all your fucking misery.
Yeah. That's easy to find.
And that's as brutally honest as I can be. A, you got to want it. B, you got to look for it, and you got to stick with it. Alcoholics are very impulsive. Like, I can do this. We give it, 2 weeks. Oh, fuck this. The bills are still coming in. I still don't have a job. My life is still shit. Well, it's been 2 weeks. How long you been drinking? 12 years, 13 years, 15 years? Okay. We don't magically get well overnight, right? We're not bad people trying to get good. We're sick people trying to get well.
Yeah.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a fucking disease.
Yeah. You
Absolutely.
don't go to AA and there's like a fairy godmother waving a magic wand and your life just all of a sudden changes bibbity bobbity boo. I mean,
Yeah, it gets different.
Takes time.
It gets different. But if you stick with it and you do the work, it gets better. It gets a whole lot better. Now, I will say AA is not the only way. NA is not the only way. I've known people who get sober going to church. I've known people who just quit cold turkey. It's AA, and I'm not speaking for AA. That's just how I got sobered. There are other means to get sober. There's treatment centers. Some treatment centers are amazing. Some are kind of shady, if we're being honest. There's 12-step houses where you can go, like sober living, where you can go just find what's right for you.
Go see a hypnotist.
You could do that. I mean, there's different ways. Whatever works is it. But if you're uncomfortable in your situation and you have a problem, the first step to solving any problem is admitting to yourself you actually have the fucking problem.
Mm-hmm.
And the second step is going and fucking doing something about it. For me, even today, I want to stay sober more than I want to get fucked up. And so at the very core, that is how I live my day. This is why I choose every morning to live this lifestyle. I also choose to be happy. I choose to be grateful. I choose to do good, not bad, right, not wrong. And I try to do the next right thing, because that's how I choose to live today. And when I first got sober, it gets different. It's weird. It feels weird. You're starting to see the world in a different view.
You've removed a lot of cognitive distortions of like people are out to
Yeah.
get me, things of that nature.
100%. And you will gain weight, right? Because if you're like me, you never fucking ate. So you were skinny as a rail. So now when you don't have that depressant put in your body, you seem to be a little happier and you eat a lot. Now, they do say when you try to sober up, you should eat a lot of chocolate because there's the same chemical in chocolate that there is in alcohol, and does something. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but it does something to your decision-making brain. But yeah, so when you do get sober, eat a lot of chocolate.
I always
I've heard that
eat
before.
chocolate when I'm sad. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
10 out of
makes
10
sense.
recommend.
Chocolate is not bad. Not bad.
It's a great option.
Have you seen Harry Potter? He gets attacked by Dementors. What do? Chocolate. It's always the right answer.
There's a chocolate frog in Harry Potter too. I don't know if it does anything important, but it's there.
Chocolate is the answer. Jesus and chocolate. That's the answer, right?
I think my answer is yes. If the question is chocolate, the answer is yes.
100%.
And if the question is sobriety, the answer is also yes, because being present for my family is pretty freaking awesome.
Even if you have to do the dishes.
Oh, God, I do. Thank you for reminding me. The dishes story is real.
You know what's funny is I never wanted to do the dishes or do laundry or clean the house or do anything to help out around the house. And again, it kind of goes back to being grateful. The only thing I ever wanted in my life was a house of my own. And I got it, but I wasn't taking care of it. I mowed the yard. Okay, I made about half the yard before I got too drunk to finish. So it took me literally 3 days to mow a very small yard. But today I wake up, I'm doing laundry and I'm vacuuming our carpets. I'm sweeping the floor. I'm doing dishes. I enjoy the shit out of it. And it's not so much that I'm overjoyed to do housework. I feel like I'm contributing to the family because my wife's at work right now. I have the day off. CJ's at school. What am I doing? Am I sitting on my fat ass just playing video games or, watching YouTube or doing something unproductive? No. Today I feel like I need to do something productive. And when I do it, granted, I don't like doing laundry, but when I finish it, I feel like I've accomplished something. And that makes me feel like I'm being a part of, again, giving and not, just taking all the time.
Right.
Sounds stupid, but
that's actually how our brain works. You accomplish something, you get dopamine. And that's one reason people are getting so severely depressed is we're not doing things anymore. So you're grateful for the opportunity to do the dishes. All you've ever wanted was a house, but now you realize it's not about having the house, it's about taking care of your home.
Very true.
Yeah, it's just that sense of reward. And I get the exact same thing too. And every now and then the wife will be like, "You're off today. Why are you insert random household chore that I'm doing?" Whether it be like steaming the floors or painting the bathroom or whatever it is. And it's just, it needs to be done. When I'm done with that, I can gladly sit down and we'll watch TV or watch a movie or whatever and relax. But it's so much more rewarding to sit down and watch TV after I've completed those chores, fixed up, clean, did whatever I need to do. I prefer it so much more. It feels better.
And that's where it is, right? The feelings.
Yeah.
We want to feel good.
And I also want to kind of go back to, right, what you were talking about, because in like the early days of being sober, you talked about how like you start becoming more aware, the fog has started to lift and everything. I've told you this before, but I feel connected with your story because I've gone through similar, not the exact same, but I've gone through similar. I had abused alcohol and drank a shit ton for years, just masking pain and things of that nature. And there was a time when my waking brain would be mostly still drunk from the night before, and I'm just kind of going through a haze of the day just to make it to where I can drink again. And more so in the past year, 2 years, I've worked on that a lot, and I have cut back my drinking so much that I hardly drink at all anymore. And if I do drink, it's very little and it is very controlled, and I'm not super crazy about it. I'm not trying to get trashed or anything. But during the days whenever I would first initially start not drinking and trying to start working on that side of myself, when that fog started lifting and like I could actually pay attention to not only just like what's going on around me, but like emotions and feelings and being able to like confront those and deal with them, you know, instead of just masking my pain for years. Yeah, it was definitely such a strange thing. There were times when I thought to myself, it's like, this isn't worth it. Like, I don't want to face these emotions, you know. To anybody who's listening to this who might be on their path to sobriety or they've just started, it is worth it. It absolutely is. Your brain is going to tell you right now that it's not, but it is completely worth it.
Funny you say that, because a couple weeks in, I questioned whether this was the right thing to do. But I started figuring out that, and again, I was scared because I didn't want to look at my past. You know, I didn't want to admit the shitty things that I did, you know, not only to myself, people at work, but my family, right? Nobody wants to admit that. I'm a man. I'm supposed to be, you know, this machismo shit. We don't talk about our feelings. We don't admit when we're wrong, because we're never wrong. We're right? We're men. Well, fuck that. I was wrong.
Stay wrong, Tim.
A lot.
Yeah. You're wrong. Stay wrong.
I mean, I fail every day. I fail at something every day, but I don't let it get discouraging. But fortunately for me, I had a guy, we call him sponsors. It's just a guy who's worked the steps. He kind of took me under his wing, and he kept repeating, he's like, just one day at a time. It's going to be okay. No matter what, it's going to be okay as long as you don't drink. If you don't pick up that first drink, your life will get better. And he kept telling me that day after, and I believed him. Is one of the first, because I was so broken. I didn't have really anybody to trust, and I had no other, all my excuses were gone. So I put my trust in this guy. And for once in my life, I actually trusted the right person. He's still my sponsor. We're still dear friends today. And he still helps me when I need him. I don't call him nearly as often, but you know, when his phone rings and it's me, he knows that he's going to pick it up, whether it's in the middle of the night or whether it's in the middle of the day and he's working. But early on, it's getting over that fear of finding out who you really are. And that's really what it is. Because I'm almost 52 years old, and I'm still just a scared 13-year-old little boy. And, you know, I want people to like me, and I want people to be okay with me and my goofy ass haircut and the fact I wear glasses, and, you know, I have a menial job, and who gives a shit? Doing the work allows you to have a chance at a better life. Being sober doesn't guarantee you dick. You know, just because you get sober, nobody owes you anything. But what it does for me, it gives me an opportunity to go do and be whatever in the fuck I want to be. You know, and that's kind of why I started this podcast. It's on the urging of my daughters, one of them who you know.
Yep.
They said, Dad, you got something to say. You have a voice, you know, and people need to hear what you've gone through, so maybe that can help them. And so if people who are newly sober, if they just go and talk to someone who's been sober, whether it's been 30 days, 60 days, or 15 years, go talk to somebody, because I guarantee you that your story will align a whole lot with them. And if it doesn't, they're going to point you onto somebody who they know who's been sober, whose story is a lot like yours. Again, if you just give it an honest chance, your life cannot suck any worse than it is right now, because I know mine couldn't.
Yeah, I think your story resonates.
That's a law of the universe. You reap what you sow. So if you're removing the delusion of alcohol and you're doing what seems to be right, you're going to be right 9 times out of 10. So you're going to be getting that good karma back. It doesn't matter if you're doing a normal job. It doesn't matter if you're a janitor or a housekeeper or a C-suite, a COO, CFO, whatever. You have inherent value. And I really want to talk to Melissa here soon, Tim, because he's talking about wanting to just be seen, wanting to be heard, to have our needs met. If I'm hungry, I would like for my wife to want to cook for me. And that's what Melissa was saying when she's reflecting people's humanity back at them. Again, you're just confirming everything that we've heard from everyone. And that's so lovely to know that we're on the right path, that we should be shining your light, and we should be providing you an opportunity to talk to our people, and you are part of our tribe. because you're on the right path, Mike.
And you said this last time. It's humbling. I think that's the word I'm going to use. Humbling, because we would have never, ever met each other, ever. Except 24 years ago, I had a daughter who decided to join the Navy, who happened to get shipped over to Italy, who ended up meeting one of you guys, and now here we are. Now, explain how that works if there is not some kind of divine intervention, or there is some spirit of the universe guiding our lives. And I agree. It's amazing when you are doing the right thing, how many other people you meet on the path who are also doing the right thing, and everybody's going in the same direction. And it's hell, I'm getting goosebumps. It's just, it's humbling to be a cog in the wheel, or a small part of that. It's just, isn't that what life's all about? It's one human being helping another human being without expecting anything in return. We do it because humans helping humans, that's what's been going on for thousands of years. And this is how we all get better, one person at a time. At least that's the way I see it.
I think I completely agree with you. And yeah, it's insane to think about the small choices that had to be made in order for us to actually have gotten to this point where we have been able to meet and have this conversation, not once, twice, 3 times, but I think we've been on the phone now with each other like 4 or 5 different times. It was from the first moment that we started talking, all the small things that had to go in and happen in order for us to be able to have made it to this point. And throughout all of our conversations, within the first 10 minutes when we talked, I think was when we realized just how much we connected and how much we were both saying this, a very similar thing, like just wanting to help one person.
I remember probably the first 30 minutes of every phone call we've ever been a part of, except for this one, because we were kind of straight to business. Sorry about that, Mike. But every phone call we've had has just been like, yeah.
Just a lot of yelling and a lot of energy. Every time I see your daughter too, I always remind her, I'm like, oh, your dad's awesome, by the way. Just in case you didn't know that.
Yeah, she's probably like, yeah, whatever.
I would rank your dad over you. He's number 1 EP, you're number 2.
Yeah, your dad is cooler than you now.
So Raiden's pretty badass. She is.
No, she's
Raiden's
awesome.
dad has got it go.
Yeah. It's funny. I was thinking about this the other day. They now call funerals celebrations of life.
Yeah.
Right. And it's fucking bullshit. It's a funeral. It's supposed to be sad. So if we want to celebrate somebody's life, why not tell them while they're alive? Why not tell them that we love them? Why not tell them we appreciate them? Why not tell them that they're, some bad motherfuckers? Why don't we do that? Why do we wait until they're gone before we start saying good things about them or to them, because they're not here anymore? And that's one of the things that, and you bring my daughter up, and that's kind of triggered my thought process. I don't think I tell my kids that I love them and how proud of them I am enough. And so that's one of the things I've been doing for the last week and a half is trying to tell people how much I appreciate them and why I appreciate them, and give them specifics and tell them I love them and tell them that I'm grateful that they're part of my life. And it kind of goes back to what Aaron was talking about, that karma. When I put good out, all I get is good back. And whether that's social media, whether that's TV, radio, whatever, if I'm listening to negative stuff, then I seem to be more negative. But if I'm listening to positive, inspirational, good stuff, man, it seems like there's, no matter what's going on, everything is rainbows and unicorns.
A lot of that comes from being more present, just existing in the moment and understanding how much love you actually have for these people around you. And one of the biggest examples I can think of this is I had a friend out here, and during our conversation, he was just telling me that he thinks he may have an opportunity to see his mother 3 more times before she passes in the next 10 years. And I asked him, I was like, are you okay with that? And he said, no, absolutely not. So he changed how he was doing things He started living more in the moment, started calling his mother more to remind her of how much he loves her, and started flying her out to come and stay with him more frequently. And I think that that's beautiful because you're becoming more present. You're aware of exactly, like, time is still flowing. You're conscious of this. So you are making the steps and the actions in order to connect with the people around you.
Military people, I'm going to give you a quick hack. Plan your holidays around Martin Luther King Jr. Day. You were talking about celebration of life. We covered that in episode 14, Vibe Check with Jason. He actually had a celebration of life for his father. Funerals are supposed to be happy so that you can help that person go to a higher plane. People are sad because they don't have the opportunity to tell people what they thought. But the way that we fix that is by calling people, telling them. I have the opportunity to call my mom and dad every single day, so I should probably jump on that. And I do as often as I can, but it's not enough. And we need to realize that our brain was made for these interpersonal relationships, so we need to prioritize them. I'm not going to be as happy as I can be if I'm not maintaining healthy relationships with my parents, with my friends, Mike and Tim. If I'm just doing my Shawshank Mile every day and not enjoying my time in the pond, I'm a silly goose, dude. I really need to enjoy my time in the pond. Don't focus on the Shawshank Mile. Think about your time in the pond with all of your silly duck friends. Silly goose? Silly goose friends.
Silly goose friends, yep.
And when you remove those delusions, those cognitive distortions of thinking you're not enough, thinking nobody loves you, life gets a lot more beautiful. So I'm glad that you've been able to remove a lot of that fog and haze.
Yeah, me too. Life, and life is so much easier when you just don't give a fuck, but in a good way, right? Like all the outside noise. Just turn on the news. Look at social media. Everybody knows what's going on in the Middle East, right? I used to be able to get so emotionally involved in that it would literally take me out of what I'm doing now. And so my whole focus was that. That's all that I focused on. Not doing the dishes, not feeding the dogs, not taking care, right? And so to have that ability to not get so concerned, well, sure, yeah, but I don't have to be so emotionally involved in that my now and where my feet are is where I am. It's a beautiful thing. Buddha Jim used to always ask me, he said, how's your now? And what he meant by that was, how are you right now? Don't think about what you fucked up yesterday. Don't think about what you're going to fuck up tomorrow. How you doing right this second? How's everything going right now? Because this is what we have, and he said, we all have a certain amount of days on this planet. He said, how do you know that today is not your last one? And that kind of gets really deep if you think about it. It's like, well, would I act any different if I knew that this was it? This was the only day that I had left. How would I act differently? And it's kind of morbid to think about. Kind of goes back to Aaron's point, though. Am I doing the best that I can today? Whether that be at my job or calling my parents or calling my friends or, whatever that happens. Am I doing the best that I can today? And if not, why not? Sorry to get deep. That's about as deep and philosophical as I can get.
Well, that's the whole point of our of our show.
No, I love
you've
that,
touched
though.
on it a couple times, and I love how there's this overlap of recovery is effing awesome, and we've talked about it in all the previous episodes we didn't publish, but people believe you more when you're cursing, so you're just being honest. Recovery is fucking awesome. It's so great to be sober. And so I love that the book that corresponds with your philosophy that I've already read, sorry, Mike, is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Because it talks about how those who matter don't mind and those who mind don't matter. Mountains out of molehills, all the other 12-step stuff. And I think it's wonderful that you have this overlap because, again, if the evidence keeps piling up that it's true, it's probably true. If you have zero evidence that it's true, it's probably not true. So it's just so reassuring that everyone we talk to is reiterating the same stuff. You have to be kind to yourself. You have to be kind to each other. You need to be present so you can understand what people need from you and also understand that people are going to accept you for who you are and realize you need to meet your needs, and don't mask it with drugs and alcohol. Be here so that you can fix the problem instead of just living in the problem.
Right.
Well said. Well said.
Definitely.
For the 5th time, do you think I got it right on that take?
So, Mike, I know we've already talked about why you started your podcast, how you started your podcast. And I think it's quite clear with the name, Recovery is Fucking Awesome. That's what your podcast is about. What kind of feedback have you received from people who've listened to it? I assume a lot of people who've heard it are probably either people who want to hear that message or people who need to hear that message.
Law of attraction, yeah.
Has anybody reached out and been like, thank you so much, Mike, or thank you so much, Recovery is Fucking Awesome, for kind of saying those words? I needed to hear that today.
Well, I really wish that I could say, you know, I've had thousands of comments and people all over the world are saying what a great job you're doing. The truth is, I've had 6 comments. I've been doing this a little over a year and a half, but they're from people who were in my past that I haven't spoken to in years, which makes it a little bit more special. Like, good job. I'm proud of you. There was one lady who commented on there, and she used to be my babysitter when I was a little kid. And, you know, we go on like family trips together. She's more like a family friend, went to church and all that stuff.
Oh, like a nanny, like a family nanny.
Yeah. And so she wrote this, I call it an essay, about how much she appreciated what I was doing. She didn't know that I felt the way that I did when I did, and that she is proud of me. And if I ever need anything, to call her. I haven't seen or talked to this lady since I was 12, 13 years old. That probably meant more to me than however many likes I get on the Facebook or however many likes I get on Instagram, because she knew me then when I just started drinking and started testing the waters into drugs. And we have been apart for so long. You know, she's married. I don't think she has kids. She's got dogs and cats or whatever. And now here we are. And I probably never would have spoken to her again except for this. And turns out her husband has also been sober for like, I don't know, 20 something years. And it's weird. Again, go back to Aaron's point, that we meet people on this road that we met before, and our journeys take us different places, but then we all converge back on that same path. And it's amazing. But in answer to your question, the feedback I've gotten is positive. What's really weird is through the app that I use, you can actually see where people are listening to it. I don't know a whole lot of people outside the state of Texas. I know one person in Italy just because my wife birthed her. But there's people in France who listen. There's people in India who listen. I don't know anybody in France or India. There's people in Canada. I know one Canadian, but she lives here and has been here for 40 years. Right. But people are listening to this all over the world, which I kind of joke with my wife. It's like, oh, look, there's, 6 people in France hit the listen button by mistake. They were looking for something else, which may be true, may not be true. I don't know, but it's humbling that even one person listened to it. Because when I started this, I expected, maybe my friends at the group, family members will probably listen to it just to kind of support me.
And now you have thousands of listens though, right?
It's very humbling. It's grateful for the opportunity. And now I get to come on here and share this shit with you guys. And I'm humbled that I've been put in a position where I get to do this. It's fucking awesome. I can't say it is. It's fucking awesome.
Amen.
Yeah, my friend Mike is pretty incredible. I'm not going to lie. I think his message is a very important one. And I'm very happy that people around the world are hearing it. And give yourself the credit you deserve, I think, here, Mike, because what you have to talk about, you're a very passionate person. I could honestly listen to what you have to say for hours. And luckily, you have a podcast, so I can do that. So before we finish off and sign off for the day, Mike, do you have anything else that you want to tell the listeners, or anything that you've been wanting to say that we haven't got to cover just yet?
No matter what you think, you are worth it. Give yourself a break. Get your foot off your own throat. and do the best you can with what you got. And you will be surprised at how fucking awesome life can be. I appreciate you guys having me on. I do. You guys are doing some good stuff, and I'm humbled to be a part of this.
One thing that wasn't said this time was a quote from our first brainstorm that Tim annotated that was, "I fight my demons every day."
Mm.
That's something that I think maybe doesn't get recognized enough. I see the struggle that you have every day because I've been around 12-step my whole life, and I'm proud of you for the work that I know you're doing. You know, we might not see each other very often, we may not talk every day, certainly, but I see that you're winning the fight every day, and I'm proud of you for that. And I do want to say that you have a fucking wizard name, so if you're ever doubting yourself, or if anyone's ever doubting you, you could be like, "I'm Mike fucking Robinius." Do you... Something in your house probably just exploded or levitated. Like, bro, I'm a wizard and you doubt me? Like, have you heard my fucking name? So we're definitely going to be linking your show in the show notes. Thank you for joining us again, Mike. Phenomenal stuff. We are going to be talking to you more and more and more and more. Hopefully, eventually, we get to have a different conversation.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you for joining us. This has been Aaron.
And Tim with
Mike.
Send this episode to whoever popped into your head while listening.
Comment below with what you want to hear us talk about next week.
Tag someone we should bring on the podcast.
And a huge thank you to Hyland Markle for the original music.
All pertinent links can be found in the episode description.
Be good to yourselves and each other.
We love you.
Peace!